Hi, this is Reinhard from EverydaySystems.com. I said I was going to do at least one podcast episode a month, and I think I'm just going to make it. Today I'm going to report on how I did in the year 2007 on my various systems, my compliance. Since I've been using the HabitCal for 2/3 of that time, from May to December, I can even quantify this to a certain degree. Now, I'm sure you're not all that interested in my personal experience in itself. I'm not that vain. But I think it might be interesting for a couple other reasons. One, as an example of how to evaluate your own compliance with different everyday systems or habits you're trying to build. And two, to give a little more hard data, if you want to call it that, on issues like what is the hardest system once you get past the initial habit building phase, and how many failures and non-weekend S days can a person who has overall been doing very well get away with. I've often quoted 2 a month as a guideline for this last issue. We'll see if the statistics bear me out. Now, I was hoping to have added a new mode to the HabitCal, which would let you automatically generate statistics like this, but I haven't quite managed to get around to it yet. This was actually my main excuse for delaying this podcast so long, which should have gone out, around New Year's. But at this point, with 3 days left in the month, it's clear I'm not going to get that done first, so here goes. This actually brings me to my first big picture statistic, monthly resolutions. In 2007, I made monthly resolutions every month, mostly just one a month, but occasionally more. And I successfully kept my resolutions 11 out of 12 months. My one failure was that in December, I resolved to get this HabitCal version 2 out with summary statistics, and I didn't get anywhere close. What were some of my successful resolutions? Some are kind of personal, but here are a few I can talk about just as examples to get you thinking. They tend to fall into 2 categories, new open-ended habits or discrete to-dos. For new habits, for the purpose of determining success or failure, I stick with the 1-month time frame. If I do my new habit till the end of the month, that's a success as far as monthly resolution is concerned. I can stop the next month if I no longer think it's worth pursuing, without a sense of failure. The monthly resolution is like a trial run. It's like an experiment. So some examples. In March, I resolved to keep a log of every time I drove the car to encourage me to drive more. I grew up in Manhattan and am an embarrassingly bad driver and have a bit of a phobia about driving. I kept the log for a month in Excel, for a few months actually. And now, I'm a slightly less embarrassingly bad and phobic driver. Still not great, but there's been a real improvement. And I did it till the end of the month, which was the criterion for success. I had another habit this month. I resolved to make a new daily habit of systematic prayer, something I checked off my daily to-do card. There's something that seems a little uninspired and maybe even blasphemous about reducing something so spiritual to a mundane task on par with give the cat his meds. But it worked. I've gone from sporadic crisis-based prayer to regular daily prayer, and whether my soul has improved, I'm not in a position to comment on, but I think it's safe to say that I'm significantly more relaxed. In February, July, August, and October, in each of these 4 months, I resolved to bang out a different draft of the No-S Diet book, or to go over a round of edits. 4 months of resolutions may seem like a lot to devote to one thing, but this was a pretty big thing, and fortunately I was able to break it up into neat monthly chunks. In May, I resolved to create the original version of the HabitCal, which actually did get done. In June, I moved the Everyday Systems websites to a new server. We also had a baby in June, our second daughter, which I thought worthy of a card, if only to remind myself that everything else needed to take a distant back seat. So what have I learned about these monthly resolutions, or monthly resolutions in general from my experience in 2007? I think the biggest thing is that if you're dealing with a really big problem, it's important to break it up into chunks. There's only so much that you can humanly accomplish in a month. Your problem as a whole may not fit into the month. but a discrete piece of it probably can. The other thing is to really try to focus on one problem at a time. Obviously, we don't have just one problem. We have lots of problems, but you're only going to effectively be able to deal with one at a time. So, and if the other problems you're not focusing on, are making you anxious, you're worrying about not doing them, keep a list of potential monthly resolutions, so you feel like you have some kind of a grip on them, like they're queued up for solving, even if you can't quite get to them yet. I do exactly this in a box on my big picture sheet, which I described in the last episode. If you absolutely feel you have to cram in more than one resolution a month, I'd recommend doing them serially, not in parallel. In other words, make one resolution to start with, and if you manage to get that done before the month is out, then maybe consider adding a second one. That feeling of success is very important. So set yourself up for success by keeping your problems small and single. I think you'll be amazed at how many more problems, and really big problems, when you add up all the parts, you're able to solve this way. My success rate with the daily index cards is a little harder to quantify because I don't actually feel like going through all 365 index cards that I made for 2007. I saved them all in a box, and I've marked all the cards on which I've succeeded in doing all my daily tasks with a little star, but I'm too lazy to plow through them right now. In 2008, I'm going to keep track of daily task success as I go on the HabitCal, so that'll make it a little easier to give a big picture statistical report at the end of the year. Now for the heart of the 2007 stats, the habits that I did keep track of using the HabitCal. There were 4: the No-S diet, shovel glove, glass ceiling, and weekend Luddite. The easiest one, statistically speaking, seems to be glass ceiling. From May 1st to December 31st, an 8-month period, I had only 2 failures and no exempt days, right? This is a system that's always on. So solid green with 2 little splotches of red. What's more, though the HabitCal doesn't currently capture this, these failures were very minor, just 1 drink over the limit. Which is a good thing, because glass ceiling failures, however rare, have the potential to be disastrous in a way that none of the other systems do. The hardest system, and this may seem a little surprising, was weekend Luddite. Most days are exempt, of course, weekdays, so I have far fewer opportunities for failure, and yet I racked up more weekend Luddite failures in 2007 than I did on any other system. 7 failures in all, almost 1 a month. Percentage-wise, it's comparatively even worse, since there are only, I think, 73 weekend days in this period, if I've counted correctly. So 7 failures means a failure rate of almost 10%. Now 90% success is not bad, but consider the glass ceiling with 2 failures of about 240 days was over 99% successful. Still, 90% is not terrible, and I've profited a lot from using this system, even imperfectly. And I have had some pretty good excuses for violating weekend Luddite this year, like writing a book. On the No-S diet, I had even fewer failures than I did on glass ceiling, just 1. But No-S has exempt S days, so the rate of successes to non-successes, failures and exemptions, isn't quite as impressive. I should add that I am pretty strict in my application of the No-S rules. If anything, I've gotten more strict over the years, so that those green days are really green. But there are a fair number of yellow exempt days, and that's an interesting thing to look at as well. I advise people to try to limit failures plus non-weekend S days to no more than 2 a month. So what do I actually do myself? Let's take a look. 21 non-weekend S days, or NWS days, in 8 months. That plus 1 failure makes 22 days. If I'd been following my own advice, I should have had just 16 days. It's not a huge overage, but it's some. To defend myself and rationalize a bit, I'll point out that I'm missing the 4 months of the year in which one would expect to take the fewest of these NWS days. In other words, I've got both Christmas, the holidays, and summer vacation in the period I'm counting. So the missing months, the missing 4 months, should bring down the average a bit. Still, 12 months times 2 is 24, so I'd probably still wind up being over, right? I'd probably expect to take at least 2 in the missing 4 months. I'll have to take another look at 2008. In the meantime, to avoid charges of hypocrisy, I'll modify my advice to take less from no more than 2 to no less than 3 failures plus NWS days per month, which, come to think of it, might actually be how I expressed it to begin with. I can't remember. And in any case, I did manage to pull off myself in 2007. It was 2 point something. To take a step back from quibbling about decimal points, let me just say that what this picture of mostly green, some yellow, and a tiny little bit of red boils down to is that no S has gotten really, really easy. I am never tempted by mere appetite to violate the rules or take a dubious S day. The only problem I ever have is people insisting I take an S day when I might not have otherwise. And frankly, it's not much of a problem since these instances are rare. And the proof, besides this attractive habit cal, is that my weight has been very stable since I dropped 40 pounds in 2002, 6 calendar years ago. Last up is Shovel Glove. 4 failures in 8 months, and even more NWS days than no S, 24. So slightly more. This is not surprising. Shovel Glove is a bit harder to keep up than no S for very obvious reasons, I think. It takes some time. 14 minutes is some time. It takes physical effort. So you have to overcome laziness. And if you're feeling sick or something, there's generally no reason not to do no S. But taking a break from Shovel Glove is actually probably a good idea if you're feeling sick. That said, I'm pretty happy with my level of compliance. For this 8-month period, it nudges against my new limit of less than 3 failures plus NWS days per month, but only just, and I think considering a full 12 months would likely bring me safely under. I love doing Shovel Glove. I mostly do it, and I am strong as a beast. That's it for my somewhat casual statistical assessment of my personal 2007 in everyday systems. I hope this was maybe an interesting example for how you might conduct your own annual performance self-review. And I promise, sometime before 2009, I will make good on my one failed monthly resolution in 2007 and get a summary stats view page on the Habit Cal to make this kind of assessment easier. Thanks for listening.